Hey guys, Raisins here, back with another video. This time we're talking about a question I get asked a lot on stream. I get asked a lot when I'm doing coaching sessions. A lot of people struggle with this, which is mid-game. Basically, what to do mid-game. What are you going to do after you leave laning phase? Where do you have to be? How do you actually play the map? And I have a little example here I'll show you, but first, I wanted to just give some general guidelines for what I personally do to smooth the transition between laning phase to mid game, and also just to like help you learn how to teach yourself how to think about the game so that you can actually make decisions mid game instead of kind of just feeling like you're just going, you're clicking on whatever wave you can see and just meandering around, and then a team fight happens. Because at the end of the day, when you do get ahead, mid game matters the most. It's pretty much just if you can win the game through mid game, you don't even need to lane. You can just basically be in the right place at the right time on the map, and you will win. So yeah, let's go through a couple of things. And there's only two questions I really ask myself mid game, and we're going to get into that. So League is a pretty complicated game. So again, I can't tell you exactly what to do in every situation. But what you want to start with is basically just ask yourself the right questions. And there's two questions I think you should ask, and it's really simple. Just what does your champion do? What is your champion's strengths, and what is your champion good at? You could also ask the same question but reverse, like what is my champion bad at? What do I not want to do? And then the second question is basically, what can the enemy team do to stop me from, doing whatever it is I want to do? Wherever I want to go on the map, what is the enemy team's best play to stop me from doing that? And is there a way I can avoid that? And that's it. That's the two questions you ask. It sounds really simple, but you stick with these two questions, you will have a much more consistent, reliable mid game, and you'll make plays before the enemy team makes plays. And that's the big thing that I'll talk about a little later in the video. So I want to say this is why knowing your champion matters so much. You need to ask yourself these two questions, but asking yourself these two questions if you don't understand your champion doesn't really make that much sense. And personally, this is what I've seen when I'm coaching, is this is why a lot of people struggle mid-game. They don't actually understand the limits of their champions. They don't understand like the mechanics of their champion to a degree that allows them to make some of these calls. Certain things like how champions interact with each other, things like when I hook someone on Nautilus, what happens if Thresh flays me after I hook? I need to understand that mechanic. Well, I can't actually land my passive auto attack on Nautilus if Thresh has flay up and he's paying attention. That's a really important mechanic to know because it'll influence the decisions I make, right? I can't just run around trying to blindly hook Thresh, but then the matchup changes if I have ultimate. So all these kind of things, it matters how much you know about your champ. So I would strongly recommend sticking to a few champions and actually learning their strengths and learning what they do and why they do them so well, so that you can actually make these decisions a little better. So the first question, again, really simple. What does your champion actually do? What does it do well? And how do I actually get to that stage in the game to, do whatever it is I want to do? So I'm going to give you an example. I've been spamming Alistair this season to try and climb. And what does Alistair do very well? It's a very simple champion, very kind of linear in what he can do, but he has a lot of complexity once you start adding layers of detail. The first simple thing you should all think about is, okay, well, Alistair team fights very well. He's a really, really good team fighter. He can land a combo, then ultimate, tank a lot, and then he can land one more combo. And if you get two combos off in a team fight, you're doing great. He sets up his team very well in fights, and he's got a lot of CC. So I would love to fight. I would love to 5v5 fight. But what are Alistair's weaknesses? Well, I struggle if I'm Alistair to deal with champions who deny engage. If I go in and we do not start a fight that is decisive, I basically just I'm useless. I just get chased down, I die. After my ultimate expires, I'm basically like super squishy. So what do you actually do about that? Well, you need to assess the champions, assess their strengths, their weaknesses. For example, if I'm playing Alistair against Gragas or Alistair against Janna or any other really heavy disengaged champion that can deny me going in, I have to be very careful about when I fight and where I fight. So that's a little quick example of a very simple layer of detail, but then you start adding a couple more points on top of it, and then you can start building this huge kind of flow chart of, okay, well, I'm good at team fighting, but the enemy team has a Gragas. So if he's playing well and he denies my combo, I can't just like ARAM mid lane and combo. So that's already one thing that you've solved mid game that you would be able to like figure out in game with some questioning of yourself. And then you can move on to the next step, which is another layer of detail. Okay, well, our team maybe wouldn't be ideal for 5v5ing if they're super far behind. So what do you do on Alistair when your team is far behind and you can't team fight? Well, one thing you can do is you can build Mobies and you can roam. You can run around and roam very aggressively because you have Hex Flash. So if you have Hex Flash, that opens up a couple of different ways of playing mid game. I can gank from really weird angles, and I can also I can place wards and then hop over walls and run away if I need to, or vice versa. So I can create opportunities in side lane with Alistair, even though I don't actually, excel that much at. If I just go side lane normally, I don't have any damage. So my laner essentially has to provide all of the damage. So what this means is a lot of layers of detail actually just give you more and more and more plays. And the more layers of detail you add, the more plays you're going to have. So I'll give you one other example, but that'll be later on in the second question. The actual important part here is you play a few champs a lot and actually learn the layers of detail. It's like a cake. Just make a cake, you got to keep adding layers, and eventually you'll start having more flavors to your cake. Okay, that was a really weird analogy, but you guys gotta get what I mean. So a couple of other examples I can think of off the top of my head. I'm playing Thresh. I would love to sit in the enemy jungle and get picks, right? Thresh is a pick champion, very, very strong at sitting on his vision and then throwing hooks out from bushes and other places and killing people. What if the enemy team is moving around as a blob? Or what if Vayne on the enemy team has a cleanse, or she has a Lulu with Mikhail's who is sticking to her like glue? Well, maybe it's not that reliable for me to just sit in vision and try and get hooks, because Vayne will cleanse, she will tumble into my team, or maybe hopefully not into my team, but she'll probably cleanse, and then she can start a fight on her terms, and it's actually not even that bad for Vayne with a Lulu behind her to just cleanse my hook and then start going to town on me. So, okay, I don't want to be sitting in jungle and getting vision, so what can I do on Thresh? Well, Lulu doesn't have any engage. Vayne has very little engage. Their engage is basically just running at us. So I can play disengage. What I would do in a lot of high elo games you'll see me on stream doing would be I just get push in the lane. Vayne and Lulu do not push lanes very fast. So what I can do is I can just play Lantern. I can just sit back and watch and ping the wave from AD carry or whoever is mid lane. I can help them push very safely because I have Lantern and the enemy team doesn't have good enough engage to kill them. Then, once we push the wave, I can then roam to the opposite side of the map where Vayne Lulu are, because Vayne Lulu are going to be dealing with the wave, and they take a long time to kill the wave. So that is a very powerful mid-game option I have, and I don't have to just tunnel into, okay, we have to get picks, because a lot of the time, if my team doesn't have enough damage to burst an AD carry and they have a Lulu, on Thresh, I'm not going to be sitting in the jungle just only looking for picks. I'll try and give myself other options. And then another last example, which isn't a support example, but a really simple one for, laners, is you're playing Camille or you have a Camille on your team. What does everybody know Camille is good at? Well, Camille is great at split pushing. She wins a lot of 1v1 matchups. She has a Cho'Gath ulti on a 3-second cooldown. she's a bit of a nuisance, pain in the ass, super broken champ. Mark Yetter needs to deal with her fast. So yeah, Camille, broken champ in side lane. But okay, enemy team has a Jax. Well, Jax is pretty much like the one hardest counter to Camille I can think of in side lane. If they're even in items, Jax just murders her because he doesn't take damage from her Q and she can't auto him. So what do you do in that situation as Camille? Or do you just say, okay, well, I'm just going to sit under my tower and Jax can split push? Or you can look for other opportunities. So you need to ask yourself, well, what else can my champion do? Maybe not the best thing, but the second best thing. Camille is really, really solid at getting picks if the enemy team has immobile carries. If she can ultimate somebody, or if she can get on somebody with a flank, or maybe even just with flash, she sets up her team for basically bursting one target down very, very quickly. So that being said, Camille is a great champion to basically focus around flanking. So you can sack maybe a few waves and then just flank. And you can flank very, very effectively if you have any sort of team that is ready to follow up on your flank. If you can TP flank, great. So that's another option. That's a really simple example. Everyone can probably think of that. But as I said, you can start adding layers of detail on top of it, and you'll start getting much more freedom to play the fights and play the game how you really want to play them. So that being said, how do you actually achieve these situations, right? Because you're mid-game, you're playing a champion that wants to get picks in the enemy topside jungle or get picks anywhere. You just want to get picks. How do you actually get to that stage? What do you actually do? Again, this part is not easy for me to just break down and say, this is what you need to do every situation, because it varies and League is a very complicated game. But what I would recommend doing is asking yourself that question first in game. like what can the enemy team do to stop me from getting picks in the top jungle, and also what do I need to get picks in the top jungle. And you'll start building kind of a like I said, a cake, a layered cake out of ideas. Basically, you need ideas. That's the basically the foundation of good mid game, is being creative, problem solving. It's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle in that sense. You need to try and put the pieces together. You have 5 team members who all have unique champions. They also could be fed. They could be really weak. One person could be playing well that game. These are all things that you can start adding on top of this second question. And the second question is, what do I do to actually get picks in the jungle? So what you can do is ask yourself that question and then answer it by saying, okay, well, to get picks, I would need vision, because we need vision for picks. That's a really simple kind of logical step, right? So how do you get vision? Okay, well, I'm playing, let's say I was playing Soraka. How do I get vision alone on Soraka? Answer, it's very risky, okay? Like, I can't walk into the enemy top jungle alone. What makes getting vision safe? Okay, I would love to have a lane that's pushed so that the enemy team has to go and catch that wave, and then I can walk in. Okay, so that's just given me another goal. What do I need then to push that wave? Well, my top laner is pushing top lane, and he's winning, so maybe that's the easiest place for us to get push. Okay, but he can get ganked. So what do I need to do to let my top laner get push so that I can then go into top lane and get vision? See how these steps kind of all follow on from each other? It's basically just asking myself, what do I need? What do I need to do whatever it is I want to do? Now, that might mean you have to put vision down for top lane, really shallow vision, maybe just in river, before you can get your deep vision, right? You need to do some simple steps before you can do the complicated step. But that's essentially what League of Legends is. It's basically finding those opportunities to kind of snowball your advantage. You start small, right? You don't start big unless you win a level 1 and you get a pentakill. Sure, start big. But start small, build your advantages like that, and that is how good high-elo players play out mid-game. They don't necessarily just see champion, kill champion on the minimap, although sometimes that does happen. A lot of the time they're focused around, creating these small advantages, finding the place where, often it comes to finding the place where they get push or where they can reliably get vision. Because if you can push a wave, or if you can reliably get vision in an area, that makes all of my decisions much easier. And you ask, why does it make it much easier? Well, if I say, what do I need to win top side of the map, and I don't have any vision on top side of the map, I don't know when the enemy jungler is there. So information is power. The more information I have, the more questions I can answer, and the more layers of detail I can add. It's basically just a self-fulfilling cycle. The more info you have, the easier your decisions are, and then you can get more leads. That's why it's called a snowball. But yeah, that's pretty much the 2 questions which I think everybody needs to start asking. Everybody can benefit from thinking that way. There are multiple ways of playing out mid-game. This isn't the only way, but this is one reliable way I found that people learn very quickly when they start asking themselves these kind of questions. And one more thing I wanted to add onto this entire video is probably the most valuable point in terms of a mental gameplay perspective, which is putting pressure on your opponents and putting pressure on your enemy laner is a really, really powerful tool which actually can completely change what you can do. So the one clip I'm going to show you is basically just me playing around my strongest member. I'll flip over to it now, and you can play it out. But while we're watching this clip, the amount of pressure you're under actually dictates whether or not you're going to be able to pull off mechanics. So if I put an enemy opponent under pressure, it doesn't matter if they're in a lane counter. If I can find good ways of making them make fast decisions, there's a very high chance they'll probably make a mistake. They'll probably screw up. They'll miss a combo, or they'll miss the important skill in a fight. Okay. But the mental aspect of League is very, very kind of undervalued in solo queue. Just purely being able to pressure people mentally by stepping forward, by playing aggressive when you know you're strong, by baiting the fact that your jungler might be nearby when you know they don't have vision around your lane. That's very, very, very powerful. And I think it's also a trick that you can use to essentially deny enemy team from ever having any sort of counterplay. Because in matchups, for example, where I'm into Gragas as Alistar, if you've ever seen any games of Alistar Gragas matchup bot lane, and I've played some on my stream recently that were very difficult. Enemy Gragas was a very good player. So what do I do about that, right? Because whenever I combo, Gragas just ease me and the lane is over. I just die, right? I don't have any way of proccing my Aftershock if I combo and Gragas denies it with E. So then I just die. What do you do in that situation? Well, you need to use your flash creatively. That's basically the solution. You need to pressure Gragas into standing maybe away from his AD carry. That's another solution. You need to come from no vision. You need to flash out of a bush. That's another solution. And you actually see me do that in some of my stream VODs where the only way I play that matchup is I have to play around that. And then in team fights, I have to play differently. So all of these kind of things, the understanding of the matchups matter a lot. But pressuring your opponents and making them constantly have to worry about these weird angles that I'm going to be coming from means the Gragas is overloaded. He's constantly thinking. He has to sit there and constantly be ready for my combo. He's waiting on his E. And that makes him very vulnerable to making mistakes. He's paying so much attention to me, he doesn't notice the jungler's coming, or he misses something on the map, or I can sit in a bush and he's so worried about me comboing that my AD carry gets a good trade, etc., etc. All these kind of things compound together and you get this big ball of mental advantage that basically just means you win the game off of pure mental advantage because you're overloading the enemy player's brain, essentially. It's a really powerful tool, and I think, you know, just pressuring really actively and being proactive can win you a lot of games. But I played the example through, and we're just going to quickly go back and I'm going to quickly talk about what I'm doing mid-game and why I'm doing it in this example. So we have a very fed Zoe and a very fed Samira. So what I'm doing essentially is I know for a fact we can get mid-push. I know that I want to get mid-push, and I know that Kennen is also very strong on side lane. The enemy team's only play is to gank Kennen. That's pretty much it. So I'm just going to quickly pause the video here. If I ask you guys what is the only solution to the enemy's problems, and you said gank Kennen, okay, cool. What is our counterplay then? If they gank Kennen, what do we want on the map? Well, Baron is spawning in 5 seconds. So you see me beeline straight for top jungle. I don't need to be mid lane because I know that my Zoe and my Samira are incredibly strong. And I also don't care about top lane right now because I want to set up my team to make the next most aggressive play. I want to basically just put my vision down so that as soon as the enemy team does the only thing that they are capable of doing, which is ganking Kennen, we are ready to punish them on the map. So if you see, all I do is I just put my vision down, I let my Samira and my Zoe push, and then I'm basically just ready to start Nash whenever I can. Now at this level in high elo games, most people will notice this kind of thing, but I would recommend if you're a lower level player, or if you're a lower elo player rather, you start working on noticing this yourself and pinging your team. Tell your team we need to be ready to go Nash if they gank Kennen, things like that. This won't always work, and you shouldn't get frustrated at your team if they don't notice this, because remember, you know, they're learning and they're at the same level you are, but you need to give your team these kind of options. So as you can see, we're just sitting in jungle. We don't care about top wave. We do ping it, but it doesn't matter if top wave dies here because we know that they have to gank Kennen. They have to do something on the map, otherwise they're just going to lose. As soon as they send people bot lane, we start Nash. If the second we see 2 people bot lane, we just immediately start Nash. Now, yes, Kennen gets a kill and it's great for us, but in the event that Kennen dies, we still get Nash because they are all bot side of the map. So this was an example of a mid-game play. This was probably the best play we could make as a team. And there's really very little counterplay for the enemy team. They did manage to try and make a play, and even if they killed Kennen, we would still have 4 people with Baron. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation. So this is how you transfer your advantage, transforming your material advantage in chess kind of style. So that's pretty much the video. If you liked this video and if you actually enjoyed this kind of style, leave a comment, tell me about it. I can make a bunch of videos. Just that second question alone, what is the most reliable play for me on the map? I could make a video that I could talk 2 hours about that. But League is a complicated game. It's a pretty complicated game. There's a lot of champions, a lot of abilities, a lot of people, different people that play League with different play styles. So it's a really interesting topic. I love talking about it. And if you want to watch me play the games live, you can go into my stream, twitch.tv/raisins LOL. I'll link it in the description. And I play every day, 8 p.m. UK time. I play about 3 to 4 games on my main. I'm about 100 LP from Challenger right now on EU West. So if you like this video, stick around, leave a comment, subscribe, and yeah, thank you for watching, and good luck in your solo queue games. Thank you.